When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Grease Goblin YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Val. I did a video on her a little while ago, but it's a bit outdated, and you guys have been requesting me to do her again, so I am going to do one for you. And yeah, so before we get into the video, if you guys like to like, subscribe, and comment, please do. It helps the channel grow and reach your people that might like this content as well. And let's get into the video. So Val, at the end of Dance with Dragons, she's kind of back at the wall after trying to figure out where Tormund had taken the rest of the wildlings, and she returns to the wall. Now, what I think is key about Val is something that she says that I think is foreshadowing as to what is going to be the fate of Shireen. Now, I think Shireen is going to end up being burned, and we've kind of been told this as well from George when they were doing the stuff on the show where Shireen does inevitably get burned. But the thing is, for me, is I think it's going to be two different scenarios. I think Val, right, who is someone that says Shireen, she needs to be killed, right? Like the grayscale, whatever, she needs to be cleaned or something along those lines. So I think, for one, I think Val will have a role in trying to get Shireen to be burned and sacrificed to kind of give power to either Stannis or to try and do some sort of power there. Because I do not believe Stannis is going to be around when she's burned. I don't think no matter how desperate Stannis is going to be, that he's going to actually do that. I don't think he would try and burn his own daughter. I just don't see it. I don't think it would fit his character. I could definitely see his mother doing it with kind of the guidance of Melisandre and also Val heavily pushing it. And besides that, though, I do think what could end up happening and why Shireen, when she gets burned, not if, when she gets burned, could also be a reason Jon gets resurrected. You know, we've always heard that King's blood has a lot of power. And Jon, you know, we know is dead. So what if we also hear that, you know, Stannis around the same time is dead, which we know is probably not true. What if Melisandre, using this magic, it's trying to maybe give Stannis aid or try to revive Stannis or give him power wherever he may be, and that's kind of their thinking. What if instead what ends up happening is that this is a reason that Jon is able to go back into his body after working into Ghost? That's what I believe is going to happen. We see in the Dance of Dragons kind of prologue that, you know, the character, I forget, it's like Varamir or something along there, those lines, I always struggle with the name. He actually is able to skin change out of his body and go into his like animals. The only problem is that once you're in there for a long time, eventually it's less of you and more of the animal. But I think that is what could happen with Jon, is that is the reason he's able to live on. Now, Val, I think, as a lot of people have pointed out, could be a really good option for Jon to marry, because I think Jon, after he's resurrected, I think he's going south. I think he could bring the wildlings. Now, I think Val comes with Jon, because in the Pink Letter, Val is kind of threatened that, you know, Ramsay kind of wants her to come to Winterfell too. And I definitely could see Val being one of the reasons that the wildlings choose to go with Jon. They kind of follow her, and I think Val is a good love interest for Jon. I think it makes a lot of sense and would be the perfect next person from Ygritte. I very much struggle with, will they actually get together, though? I think they could definitely be a love interest. I think they could maybe have some sort of relationship there. Jon thinks she is very beautiful, and Val has kind of flirted with Jon a couple of times, so I think there could be something there. I think Val is a very interesting character, and I think Val, what I think ended up, so in the show we saw that Tormund was kind of the main leader, right, of the wildlings. I think what's going to end up happening is Val, along with someone like a Tormund and other characters, will be kind of the leaders of the wildlings. I think in the show they just gave that all to Tormund instead of having a bunch of other characters they have to introduce, stuff like that. But I think in the books, Val will kind of take up that role and will kind of always be somebody kind of in Jon's council at the very least. So I think what ends up happening is Jon gets revived. I think Val gets the wildlings. They go south. Now, this changes depending on if you think Stannis is going to win. If Stannis wins, okay, then there's not going to be a battle. They just kind of show up, and they start by trying to, you know, get the North, you know, ready for war. So I think Val, either way you look at it, she's not going to have the biggest influence past when they leave the wall. I think she's going to be more or less a figurehead of the wildlings, and I think that she could end up being a love interest for Jon if Val does survive the entire story, which I think is pretty likely. I think it is likely that she will survive. I think Val could be a character that ends up marrying Jon, or at least has a relationship with Jon by the end of the story. Whereas in the show, we saw that Jon goes back up north. I think in the books that something similar could happen like that, but Val also being there with Jon, and Jon kind of getting a decent ending, right? Where, yeah, he is kind of maybe banished to the north or something like that, but he also goes with Val, and he kind of always gets what he's wanted to do, where he's kind of free. And I've always looked at Jon to where he was somebody that kind of could be a wildling after we see everything with Ygritte. He is definitely a character that changes. So, for the most part, that's kind of where I think Val is going to go. If you guys think like there's more going on with Val, she's going to have more of a bigger impact or play, let me know. But for me, that is kind of how I look at Val. I think she is a character that is going to be a figurehead for the wildlings, like I've said, and will also be a character that can be a love interest for Jon. So that is where I look at her character, and that's kind of the video. It's kind of a shorter one, but I don't have a ton I want to say on Val. But you guys definitely wanted to see it again, so I did it. So there's the video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know if there's more on Val that you guys wanted me to talk about. If there's something else you think could happen, let me know, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.